now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all guns. I love it, property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red,
a contributor to many of Glenn Beck's books. He is also the host of Heartland's In the Tank podcast. You can also find him at Stopping Socialism TV on YouTube. The director of Heartland's Emerging Issues Center. Donald Kendal, how are you, handsome?
I'm doing wonderful. It was a beautiful Friday here in Chicago. A little wet, but it's not too cold, so I'll take it.
Oh, nice. That's very good. A lot of interesting things happening outside of Illinois, Stan. And a lot of things that are happening have a lot to do with some of the things you and I talked about. And I find it fascinating to hear the little blurb that was uttered by Donald Trump about Cuba. I immediately thought, boy, oh boy, first Venezuela, Iran, now Cuba. He's taking on communism and theocracies, isn't he?
Yeah. I was kind of wondering how far some of these things are going to go. I heard that little statement about Cuba just the other day. It was brought to my attention. So I'm curious if we got some certain operations going on over there, similar to what we've seen in Venezuela and Iran, and arguably even Mexico. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out. It's kind of hard to predict anything that Donald Trump does, but that keeps enemies of freedom on their toes, right?
Well, one of the things I watched was the GDP of Iran prior to Barack Obama, post-Barack Obama, during Obama's administration. Their GDP doubled 2 years after Barack Obama was in office. And when at the time he had cut the deal where he paid interest to a theocracy rooted in Islamo-Nazism, which doesn't believe in interest. He gave them 5.14% compounded over 30 years and turned $400 million into just under $1.8 billion. And when he gave them that money, at that time, their GDP had officially doubled. So when you look at the positive economic effect the Obama years had on Iran, it explains why both Iran and Venezuela not only worked out a tremendous agreement and had a weekly flight from their capitals, but it also turns out they're the greatest sponsors for the left-wing and communist caucus in Spain and the rest of Europe. They were using that money to propagandize the future, just like you and Glenn Beck were talking about all those years. And the money originates from our foreign policy. They're not rich because they're selling oil. In fact, they're not selling much more than they sold during the Carter years. They're rich because of our foreign policy that bribes them to be civilized, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, it's funny. There's like a through line between almost every topic that I'll come on here talking about, and other topics that you talk about on a daily basis when it comes to just the gargantuan state of the government and the amount of money that they pour into every program, this and that. I mean, I'm on here talking about the green scam all of the time and, climate alarmism. But all of these are essentially just vehicles to pour money into the coffers of basically to whatever supports the agenda at that given time. I mean, like when I hear people talk, politicians, people in the think tank world, talking heads on TV, talking about, waste, fraud, and abuse. It's like, that's just a quaint idea compared to the reality of it, which is this whole operation is essentially just a giant money laundering scheme.
Well, 236 years to accumulate $9 trillion in debt. Barack Obama doubles it in 8. Joe Biden adds 9 and 4. And look at the entitlement policies, the foreign policy agreements, the loan guarantees to we have no idea. Look at the fact that we were funding not only our our scandals of entitlement, like Minnesota, we're financing them in Europe. We're financing them in these theocrats, these third world hellholes in Central and South America. This is all self-induced bankruptcy. Like every other area Democrats reside over, whether it's Dalton, whether it's Chicago, whether it's California or New York, it's all the same. They only know how to bankrupt and waste the money, fraud the money, abuse the money, because that's their business plan. They have no other plan.
Right. If any money actually goes towards, helping people in need or, helping feed the hungry, like that's all just like a little bit of a byproduct, something that they can put on their flyers and their campaign letters and whatnot. But when you hear these stories talking about billions of dollars, state level, we're not even talking about the federal government, state level billions of dollars in fraud. Like, that's not an accident. That's not just like little fraud and abuse and waste around the margins. No, this is part of the game, and it's almost like it's almost pathetic to look at it as just like, well, if we just clean it up a little bit, it's all good. No, this isn't a bug. This is a feature of the system that's been erected around us.
What's pathetic is to watch the hundreds of congressmen that are Democrats, the 50-plus senators that are Democrats, and not one is outraged at the money that was stolen by that Governor stupid-face Tim Walz and that moron AG. Not one. To listen to those scallywag scum praise them. They were praising them during the hearing. Not one said, how could you not account for $12 billion, potentially $18 billion? And you've got 21-year-old scumbags that can't read with an IQ of 62 that you want to blame for this? This whole fracking creation is from these Democrat politicians, and that's why they're not mad. And sooner or later, the chickens are going to come home to roost, just like Reverend Wright warned us. Isn't that going to happen? Please tell me it's going to happen. Please.
I'm hopeful. I think that, a lot of the systems that we have erected that have been generations old at this point, they have that feeling of being unsustainable, but I feel like I've been saying that my entire adult life. So I'm hopeful. But I don't know. I'm not going to make any promises.
Well,
though.
I have to tell you the difference in living under the rule of gangsters as Democrats and not living under them. I'll never go back. Can never go back to it. It's a completely different universe, a completely different world. And in there lies the issue. There is no scandal. There's no amount of money. Not one Minnesota Democrat is ever going to do anything but vote for a fracking Democrat, because at this kind of level of money, you're in on the fraud. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how they get away with it and how virtually impossible it is to get away with it. And it brings into our topic about this Anthropic. Explain to me what this software, what Alex Karp, Palantir, this is basically software that can monitor each and every one of us through our actions, through our movements, our locations, our text messages. Is that not a big part of this service that the government contracts with these companies because they have that arm's length deniability of the government surveilling us directly? Isn't that what these entities really basically are?
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I come on every once in a while and talk about artificial intelligence. But this latest story involving Anthropic and the Department of War, I think, kind of highlights the largest crossroads between public policy and artificial intelligence that has occurred since I've started paying attention to this several years ago. So basically, there was a brewing just prior to the military action in Iran, just in the weeks leading up to that, which I don't think is a coincidence. There was a feud, a rift that formed between Anthropic, which is one of the leading AI companies out there. There's only like 4 or 5 of these large frontier model creating companies, and Anthropic is one of them. And Anthropic is behind in certain things, but they're way ahead in other realms when it comes to artificial intelligence. But they're so far ahead in certain aspects of it that they actually had the only contract where they have their models inside of the military and intelligence, apparatus, right? They're used for their databases, all that sort of good stuff. So again, just prior to the military action in Iran, there was a feud that brought up where Pete Hegseth basically said that, there are 2 limitations that Anthropic has put on their artificial intelligence that we want taken out. Those 2 things include AI being able to control fully autonomous weapons and a restriction on the use of it for mass domestic surveillance. These are two restrictions that Anthropic put on their own artificial intelligence systems. And Pete Hegseth and the Department of War wanted those restrictions taken off. We wanted to decide how to use artificial intelligence, not you. That was the core of the feud.
So Pete, just to get this straight, Pete says he wants the War Department and the government to have unfettered access to surveil and monitor any customer who has anything to do with any AI use that Anthropic service is. Do I have it right?
It's worse than that. It's worse than that. Yeah. So basically,
so I don't like that. Let's start with I don't like that. But go ahead.
So these tools. Well, first off, Pete Hegseth said, the idea of mass domestic surveillance, it's already illegal. We only want this for all lawful purposes. That's the common refrain that he would come with. We wanted to use it for all lawful purposes. So if mass domestic...
I love Pete.
Go ahead.
I do. I mean, I like Pete. I like Trump. But they're temporary. They're temporary people. If you haven't, when I went back to Illinois, and just driving on the streets, not one Democrat's going to do anything but be Democrat the rest of their life. So there will be another time they can steal another election. There will be another moron in charge. I don't want any of that. Well, but I'm already too late for all this anyway. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, so Anthropic, there was an ultimatum. That's you give us this unrestricted version of your artificial intelligence, or we'll deem you a supply chain risk, which means you won't be able to do any contracts with the government, all of this sorts of bad things. So Anthropic, the CEO, came out and said, no, we're not going to do it, and they explained why on both accounts. So for the fully autonomous weapons, they basically said, hey, we're not necessarily against this. We just don't think our AI is reliable enough to not have it make mistakes. And in that theater of war, those mistakes could be terrible. So that's that one. As for the mass domestic surveillance, they said, yeah, that's true. There is laws against this, but those laws existed or were created in a world prior to artificial intelligence. So they explain how it is perfectly legal for the government to basically source out a bunch of what was previously useless information about people. That could be GPS pings on their phone. That could be browsing history information. That could be a whole various amounts of information that in and of themselves aren't that valuable. But we can have an artificial intelligence system that can sift through it all, and it could create profiles on people in an instant in scale. So there is possibility that the government could use this for mass domestic surveillance, and that's what Anthropic was pushing back against. So it really gave an insight into what an AI-powered surveillance state could look like.
Man, oh man, oh man. Tom Cruise with his fracking movies, he was so far ahead of himself. Minority Report Part 2. And when you look at what they already have, Tim Tebow's, I don't know if you saw his testimony before Congress. Did you see it?
I did not.
Oh, they already have this type of technology, but it's specific to IP addresses as it exists. I want you to hear this. You want to talk about all this wind about Epstein? By the way, all Democrats up and down the fracking thing, all Democrats, their financiers, and all the Democrats release the files. Well, how about this right here from Tim Tebow? Listen.
Every one of those red dot maps is a unique IP address that is downloaded, shared, or distributing child rape images, almost all under the age of 12. And that's just a 6-month screenshot of it. And there are over 338,000 on there. There's blue dots on there. You can't really see them, but the blue ones are the ones that are under investigation.
In a sea of red.
Isn't that a problem of what we're talking about?
338,000 IP addresses are sharing and downloading illegal pedophile rape porn. So the snuff films of the 60s and the 40s and the 30s. And you've got the IPs. They've got the locations. You have to see Illinois. Whew. You have to see it, what's going on. And there's infinitesimal investigations. And it's funny because you're feared of this technology that can surveil us all. Well, why don't you start with the small stuff we already have and then prove that you're going to do the right thing? Because what we know from the Biden administration, their surveillance was all the wrong thing, not the right thing.
Right. And that's the thing. With great power comes great responsibility. Tools that could be used by the good guys could be used by the bad guys. All those sorts of things come into play. And I said that I don't think there was a coincidence that all of this was coming to a head with Anthropic and the Department of War right before the military action in Iran, because I think that both of those things actually have direct implications for this feud going on with Iran. And I think when it comes to the mass domestic surveillance, now this is just pure speculation on my part, but I was wondering, because you'd hear all of these stories about the potential sleeper cells that could be activated in the United States. Well, guess what would be able to weed those things out real quick would be an Anthropic-powered AI system that can synthesize all of this raw data and be able to find those people, right? But that sounds great. That sounds great. But, you know, if a Biden 2.0 gets into office in a few years, you know, there was an argument against, this is not my favorite argument, against, you know, like gun control sort of action. But there was this argument that, you know, the practicality of it, like the government would just not be able to pull it off. Too many guns. They don't know about, you know, all the locations of all of them, that sort of thing. An AI-powered surveillance state makes that a lot more practical, a lot more possible. Those are the things that scare me.
Well, here's the other side of the fact of what we live in called reality. The government, Democrat politicians specifically, as we speak, are fighting to retain the anonymity of people we know are here illegally. This is the biggest argument that never is made, and I'm in awe of it. There is only but one reason someone would come to this country and not participate in the 8 pathways to be here legally. There are 8 different pathways, 8 different columns, all with tens of different of options to come and become a citizen legally, of which 36 million people in this country today have done. So we have 36 million legal aliens here today. The only reason you would come here illegally is to remain anonymous because you're up to nefarious activity. It is that simple. So you're going to pass all of this stuff on, and Joe Biden and the rest, you gave phones to people who filled out paperwork with no proof, nothing of who they are. We have millions, tens of millions of people right now active, driving on the roads, going to work. You have no fracking idea who they are. But you know who you are, you know who Squirrel is, you know who the listeners are, so you can surveil these guys 8 ways to Tuesday, but you're still, even though we give you this power, you cannot solve the real problem because our politicians have protected the anonymity of people who decided the first decision they made was to break the law. That's the argument. Yeah. And until they have to follow it, I don't want to follow it. What do you think of that?
That sounds fair to me. But yeah, there's this idea, and we talk about this a lot, actually, when it comes to, you know, the size and scope of the powers of the government. And a lot of the things when they're actually exercising that power comes to this concept of selective enforcement. You know, if the law was equally spread across everybody, then that's one thing. But when you're enforcing those laws against the people that are your political enemies, that's where it becomes really treacherous territory. And these AI tools, the one that I talked about, that's just one thing. There are several others. I got an article coming out in the Washington Times next week talking about all of these different AI tools. They're going to enhance this idea of the AI-powered surveillance state, and it's just an incredible amount of power. The idea of privacy is quickly becoming an outdated concept.
Well, and the thing that I'm sick about is that I'm pro artificial intelligence because there doesn't seem to be any, especially among Washington, D.C. There is no intelligence. So I'm hoping that the real intelligence, even if it's given bad program, can learn itself to reject the policies of corruption and fraud, which is why I don't think it's really ever going to be released, because the people who will make the decisions will say the first thing they're going to do is say, well, this AI is going to shut off all this skullduggery that we get rich on, so we can't let it happen. I'm holding that in my pocket. And the other thing I'm a little perplexed at, and I want to like him. So let me start off by saying, even though I could make fun of him 8 ways to Tuesday, he's like Jim Ignatowski from Taxi, this Alex Karp from Palantir. Very, you know, I want to like him, and I want to like him, right? Because if you know the real story about him, it's a heartwarming story, right? The father, I don't know what happens, but he's not in the guy's life. He grows up dirt poor. You know this about Alex Karp?
No. I am familiar with the gentleman, but not the backstory.
Listen to me. Dirt poor, so much so that his mother, who apparently was a wonderful lady, worked her ass off and was a cleaning lady and looking for jobs, went into a jewelry store, and the guy said, well, I don't need you. But she said, please, I have nowhere to live. He said, I have a room. He lived in a room with a toilet and no bathtub, nothing. That's how this kid lived. And he became Alex Karp, who's one of the richest guys in the world. And that jewelry store owner, he still buys all his stuff from him, buys jewelry and gives it away. So that's a wonderful story about him. But when you hear him talk, I don't like this at all. Did you hear what he said during the meeting for his company, Palantir? Did you hear it?
I've seen some of his speeches, but I don't know specifically what you're referencing.
I've had this on the board for 10 days. And every time I listen to it, I think, oh, boy, this is going to be rough. Here, I want you to hear this.
Alex, as always, we have a lot of individual investors on the line. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end the call?
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am. Let's not talk to analysts about the burden of being right, our burdens of investing in ontology, our burdens of actually looking at the math, the burden of reading what the Rule of 40 is, the burden of being honest about what an enterprise software company is, or the burden of explaining to your friends that you're really happy. Maybe we should just stop talking about it. I'm very happy to have you along for the journey, and you are partners for us. Every Palantirian, we are crushing it. Everyone else who's listening, we are dedicating our company. We have dedicated our company to the service of the West and the United States of America, and we're super proud of the role we play, especially in places we can't talk about. And we love our success in the U.S. and globally. Also, we are doing in the United Kingdom and many other places. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them. And we hope you're in favor of that. We hope you're enjoying being a partner, and we're really happy and very, very focused on what we're doing.
That's a shareholder meeting.
Right.
I mean, I thought the Elon Musk Tesla ones were fun. This guy's out of his fracking mind. I thought he was going to bring in strippers afterward, and here are the fellas for the ladies. It was insanity. And we sometimes kill people. You're at a shareholder meeting there, Mo. I mean, it was insane to watch him go crazy. But this company is interwoven with governments, ours specifically, all around the world. And they're doing all of the things you're telling me we're afraid of. They're already doing it. They're already integral in this war and wars to come. And it's already here, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. We know that AI played a large role in this attack on Iran, as well as the one a few months ago on those nuclear sites. We know that AI played a large role in the Maduro raid in Venezuela. And we also have a lot of speculation that it played a role in the cartel member that was taken out in Mexico. So these are all things that sounds like science fiction.
Wow.
Just a handful of years ago. Now it's reality.
Listen, it's just a matter of time before they get a couple of handsome devils on radio and TV. So we better be careful. Smoke them if you got them, Donald Kendal. It's a matter of time. You get one more dimwit with dementia that steals the office. We're top of the list, kid.
Yeah, no kidding about that.
Well, thank you for joining me. I truly appreciate it. How often and where do we go to keep an eye on everything Donald Kendal?
Yeah, heartland.org is the place to go. You already mentioned the Stopping Socialism TV. We have stoppingsocialism.com. We're populating that daily. And, yeah, you can find me around social media, all that sort of good stuff.
Thanks for always making time. Say hello to everybody at Heartland for me, will you?
Will do. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. We'll be back.
Call Shaun now. 312-642-5600.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. If you're a business owner with unfiled tax returns, tax season is not your friend. This is when the IRS turns up the heat. They match 1099s. They review payroll filings. They compare bank deposits. And when returns are missing, they don't send you a warning. They take action. Penalties stack up fast. Liens become public. Bank levies can drain your account. I see it every year. Good business owners who waited too long, not because they're crooks, but because they were overwhelmed. Let me be clear, hiding makes it worse. Action makes it fixable. I help business owners get compliant, file what's missing, and negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. Don't wait for the next certified letter. Don't wait for a levy. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll tell you exactly what to do next, step by step. Or call me right now at 312-664-6649. Act now before the IRS acts first.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the